Welcome to the Predators official podcast, streaming on YouTube here on 102.5 The Game and wherever you find this, your favorite podcast. I'm Brooks Bratten alongside my friends Max Herz and Kara Hammer. And Kara, as I said to you leaving the game on Monday night as we record on Tuesday, February 3rd, gosh, I wish we only had something to talk about today. My goodness, do we ever. A 4-goal comeback for the Nashville Predators over the St. Louis Blues. That's followed by a comeback win over the New York Islanders. The Olympic break basically upon us. But the big story, General Manager Barry Trotz announcing retirement plans. Before we get into all of this, Max, Kara, Monday to me felt like 96 hours long. What did it feel like for you?
I appreciated Nick Barnowski, our head of PR, who said, "Thank you for spending your entire day with us," as he said goodbye to all the media members after Bruno's press conference. It was kind of weird because you woke up Monday morning and I opened my social media to see a tweet from Elliot Friedman that said Barry Trotz will announce his retirement later today. And you kind of are feeling a little bit of shock of what? It's February. What's happening? And then you go and we listen to his press conference. We're going to play a little bit of that, but kind of just started as an emotional day because you think of Barry Trotz, and to me, he is the Nashville Predators. And Max, I mean, we've all had a chance to watch him as a coach, now step in as a GM, and you kind of start to wonder, why?
Yeah, and Barry made it clear it's a family decision. He immediately dispelled the rumors that are natural when big things happen in the sports world. It's not due to health issues. He doesn't want to become a coach again, which it still seems like many NHL teams want him to be their coach, which I think that phenomenon will never end because he was such a great coach in 3 different places in the league. But yeah, it was really personal for Barry Trotz to hear him talk about his family and that it was time, and he wanted to initially finish out his contract, which would be one more full season after this year. But he and Preds owner Bill Haslam spoke and decided that, you know what, let's start looking now. And the timeline is fluid on when the next GM will be hired and announced. Barry Trotz will continue to be the Preds GM until that happens. Haslam made it pretty clear that plan A is for the Preds to have a new GM by the draft this coming off season. But the timeline is fluid, and I think that gives the Preds some freedom. So I think this is what was good for everybody, to be honest with you. That was my big takeaway from yesterday. Barry Trotz gets what's good for him. He gets it on his own terms, of course, which when the announcement comes out, it's like, oh my God, like whose decision was this? Is Barry Trotz okay? And it was 100% on everybody's own terms on all sides. And the Preds get to go hunting for the 3rd GM in franchise history, Brooksy.
Absolutely. Well said, Max. So yeah, those are some of the facts as you laid out there. So again, to clarify, Barry Trotz, he is still the general manager of this hockey team. That was another point of emphasis that Bill Haslam made on Monday, that yes, the plan is to eventually retire and step aside. But for now, especially with the trade deadline, we've talked about it in our previous episode as well, coming up just over a month away now on March 6th, Barry Trotz is running that. And he will be the acting general manager until a successor is found. So that timeline, Max, as you said, is fluid, but the search is already underway. So the Predators have engaged Creative Artists Agency, CAA, which you may have heard of before, to lead the search for a new head of hockey operations. And I love the analogy that was used, and we'll hear Bill Haslam talk about it a little bit more later, but putting the fishing pole in the water. Right? We know that this is going to be a very attractive position. The Predators have a ton of time now to engage in this search, make sure they find the right person. And I love the folks that are going to be involved here. So Predators chairman Bill Haslam, of course, Barry Trotz will be involved, Preds CEO Sean Henry, President and COO Michelle Kennedy. And then I think the best part, 2 of the minority owners. So Chris Sigaren, whose family has been involved in the ownership since 2007 when Predators Holdings came online. And then Nick Saban, who Bill Haslam says knows a thing or two about producing a winning culture. He will also be involved in the search committee. A sentence that we never thought we'd be saying. Nick Saban is going to help find the next Predators general manager. But here we are, wild times we're living in 2026. But Max, you mentioned it, right? It's a family decision. Barry Trotz is healthy. We kind of laughed when we got off in the scrum after the formal press conference, and Barry said, "Believe it or not, I am healthy. No matter what you think or however you perceive health to be," he said, "I am healthy. I'm feeling good." But he wants to spend more time with his family. Let's hear Barry Trotz on that reasoning, and again, the main reason why he is making this decision.
For me, the number one thing is I think you get to a point in life, in a life decision, that you owe time. The great thing about this game, it is you're all in. You're all in, and you have to be if you're going to be successful. And it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of energy, and it also takes away a lot of things from your personal life, your family, your wife, your children, grandkids, you name it. And for me, it came really clear that they deserve my time.
So there you hear it, Barry Trotz, getting a little bit emotional. We saw him get emotional a couple of times on Monday during this press conference. And how can you blame the man? I think that I imagine that most fans realize how taxing it is, how time consuming it is to be a general manager in the National Hockey League, but you're never off, right? Like, even if you're on vacation, your phone is there, your laptop is there. If you've got to sign a guy, trade a guy, Max, this is a position that demands the best of you. And as you heard Barry Trotz say, a great thing about this game is you're all in all the time. But at some point, you might want to say, hey, it'd be nice to be there for a family member's birthday here and there.
Yeah, I think the real authentic emotion is what hammers home the impact of the day and the reasoning for the decision. And Barry Trotz has been a head coach and now a GM in the NHL for so long. That's every moment. So it never ends. And now all of a sudden it does end. And Kara, I think we really got the sense that Barry Trotz is so at peace with this ending and this decision.
Yeah, I think it was at the end when he said, I love this game and I love my family. And you could hear the emotion from him when he said that. But let's go back to Brooks, what you talked a little bit about the search committee. We know one thing is Nick Saban is not going to step in as the GM of this hockey team. I know that may sound a little humorous, but I started to see some things on social media and hearing it around the radio. People just assume that because he understands sports and in a franchise, he's not going to step in. But there will be some familiar names interviewing for the role. We know that Brian Poyle, David Poyle's son, will have the opportunity to interview. We also know Scott Nickel, Jeff Kelty, names in the organization will have a chance. Other than that, we've had no other names come about. I know we'll probably start to see some flutter around of who could fill these shoes. But Brooks, we can all just speculate here. Do you see them staying in-house or going, maybe venturing out? And now that we have so many people involved, a huge search committee, where do you see it going?
Yeah, I think, again, like Barry Trotz mentioned it yesterday, we've heard reporters and folks around the industry all mention it as well. This is going to be an incredibly coveted job. There are a lot of people who are going to want to be involved. I would even venture a guess, again, as we record this just over 24 hours after all of this came down, I would imagine there's a lot of folks who are, if they're not already getting their resumes and their materials ready to go, perhaps there's a lot that's already been sent in. And I imagine that there are folks all across the hockey world, perhaps elsewhere. I mean, that was something that was mentioned as well. Is it somebody who's not even in hockey? We've seen that crossover a little bit in other sports, and I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I do think it is great to have a hockey person in a role like this, obviously. But, even somebody like an agent, we've seen player agents cross over into the general manager role. We've seen broadcasters or coaches. It doesn't have to be people like Max, even. It doesn't have to be somebody who is necessarily already a general manager or already an assistant general manager. I think one point to make, at least from a organizational perspective, is I love that Sean Henry said yesterday, the next time we talk about this, him meaning as an organization wise, he's like, the next time we talk about this is when we have the new person here and we're celebrating that hiring. We're not going to be out there announcing this person flew in, this person scheduled this day. I think at least organizationally, they're going to want to keep that a little bit tight. But we know how information spreads in this day and age. There are going to be rumors. There are going to be names that come out. I will be fascinated to see who it eventually ends up being, because again, I think there are so many, not only candidates in general, but so many qualified candidates.
Yeah.
And, we know as well as anybody else, working and living in Nashville, that's not a bad thing to do either. It's going to be a lot of people, Max, that want this job.
Look, Brooks, if you think I'm a candidate, I am painfully underqualified, but you know what? I'm interested. Thanks for asking.
Throw your hat in the ring. Why not? Well, so I want to mention this too, and we touched on it just a moment ago. The timing of this, right, guys? I think that was probably the biggest question. And you mentioned the rumors, Max, that started flying on Monday morning when this came out. Why now? Why is the timing right now? And that was one of the things that Bill Haslam, Predators chairman, touched on very early on in the press conference. Here's what he had to say. His 3 reasons on why the timing is now.
So when you think about the great Nashville Predators, Barry Trotz's name has to be near the top of the list. Okay, he's made that kind of contribution. I also want to say this. I've been in business, I've been in politics, I've been in sports now for 2 or 3 years. I don't know many better human beings than Barry Trotz. I really don't. He's just that guy. And he has that kind of heart for everybody around him. So I want to start there, his incredible contribution in this. A logical question is like, well, this is sort of an unusual way to do this. You're announcing a search that Barry's, going to be the general manager. And by the way, I want to make that point really clear. Barry is our general manager. He is going to be the general manager. He's in charge of the trade deadline. He is our general manager. I've been a mayor and a governor where everybody calls you a lame duck. I don't believe in that. Barry is our general manager. But you might say, so why are you doing this now? Well, 2 or 3 reasons. One, I just kind of want, whenever you can, you want to be as transparent as you can. And once you've made a decision, you need to go ahead and say that. The second thing is this. Barry's the unique kind of individual you can do this with. I have 0 doubts, and I want to emphasize that he won't always do the right thing for the Predators. And anybody that knows Barry and wonders if he'll think, oh, I'm on the way out, I want to make it look good, I'll treat the trade deadline this way. That won't. Barry will always do what's right. I have 100% confidence in that. And I also think this. He's a person that doesn't have the kind of ego that's going to affect doing things right. Always do the right thing, and Barry will do that. So because Barry is that kind of person, because we want to be transparent. And then the third thing is that this is a process. We're going to be talking and looking. We're going to start a search. We're going to be looking at a lot of different people say, well, you can look at only existing general managers, assistant. We're going to look at a lot of different people. But as you know, the way it works in hockey, once the season ends, a lot of people go down to the fishing hole, as they say. I just assume be the guy with his line in the water first. And having Barry gives us the capacity to do that. So we are going to start a search. We've hired CAA to coordinate the search for us. We have a search committee that I will lead, but Barry and Sean and Michelle Kennedy, our president, will be on. We also will have a couple of our other shareholders, Chris Sigaran. Chris's family's been involved with the Preds for a while, and then Nick Saban, our newest owner, who has a little familiarity with helping on winning organizations, has agreed to be on the search committee as well. But we are going to, we'll start that search. Like I said, Barry is our general manager. We can do this because of the kind of person he is, and we look forward to continuing to build on Preds hockey.
So there you have that. And we mentioned the fishing pole analogy just a moment ago. Getting it in the water, right? There are going to be so many people who want this job. And if you wait until March or April or May, people start going off the board, people start going away for the summer, people start looking elsewhere. I like what Bill Haslam said, that once you make a decision, let's be transparent in it and start to move things forward. Let's not wait. And that's exactly what the Predators are doing here, Kara, is getting the search started now because they know this is not going to be an overnight process.
No, and I think also too, Brooks, we have to talk about how big things are happening, how big this trade deadline is for the team, as I stumble over my words trying to get out because I'm still reeling off of the Predators' comeback win last night. I'm feeling a little tired after watching them come back from 4 goals down. I mean, the energy, the excitement was there. But Brooks, you look at where the team is. They're sitting on the bubble right now. Are they going to be in the playoffs? Are they not going to be in the playoffs? How big are these next few games before they hit the Olympic break? What's happening with the pieces that they have, and what's going to happen as the team moves forward? Are they in? Are they out? There's just so many unknowns as we record here on Tuesday because we're still trying to wait and see, are they going to be in the playoffs?
Yeah. And that's a great point too. And Barry Trotz was asked about that during the press conference, and he said that as much, right? He's like, we are not in the playoffs right now. As of today, even though the Predators won on Monday night, there's still a few points out of that wild card spot, very much in the hunt. But Barry Trotz says, I owe it to these gentlemen, meaning Bill Haslam and Sean Henry sitting beside me. I owe it to Predators fans to look at the present, to look at the future, and say what is best for this team. And he's said it before, and he reiterated it again on Monday that everything is on the table. And we've touched on it on this show, and there's lots of people talking about it at this time of year. It's kind of a weird little nuance with the Olympic break. You think, oh, we've got a month until the trade deadline, but you've actually only got a handful of games to make that decision, Max, and say, are we buying? Are we selling? Are we standing pat? Are we trying to give it a go with this group? Again, this is why it's great that Barry Trotz is still in the position he's in. He's not going anywhere for the time being because somebody's got to make these decisions. And arguably, these decisions have never been bigger, at least in the last few years.
Yeah.
The last time that the Preds had an outgoing GM, Tom Fitzgerald made a trade with David Poile and said, yeah, you can have our 7th round pick. We want you to make one final selection. And he ended up giving the Preds a chance to select a guy who has become a potential real goal scoring prospect in Aiden Fink, who just scored an awesome goal in front of 60,000 people outdoors at Penn State this past weekend. So maybe this is a negotiating tactic for Trotzy. Hey, it's my last deadline. Can you throw in an extra first in there? I'm never going to get a chance to do this again. So no, but in all seriousness, it's still Trotz's deadline to run. And I think he's going to be responsible with it. And this was something that Bill Haslam and Sean Henry, sitting on either side of Trotz, emphasized in that press conference. Just because Barry Trotz is retiring doesn't mean he's not the GM starting today. And we know because of who he is and what Smashville means to him, that Trotz will run the deadline and however much else he runs until the Preds do hire a new GM the way that he should and leave everything in good hands. And look, it's the same way that David Poile and Barry Trotz worked together at the trade deadline 3 years ago. And that was a pretty successful deadline for the Preds, even as sellers. So I think we should expect similar results and process here.
100%. I wonder for the both of you, and Max, I know you mentioned it a little bit, but now that we've had about 24 hours, Kara, I'll start with you. What are your takeaways from this? What do you think of all this? Has it settled in yet that this is actually the way things are going? What do you make of Barry Trotz's situation and the way that things will head moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brooks. I don't know. I think it's still I think we're still trying to process it. I have to mention I'm here in Milwaukee. I'm going to the Admirals game tonight, and an Admiral staff member picked me up, and she said, "What's happening down in Nashville?" She goes, "We were watching Barry Trotz's press conference." So I think everybody's just already feeling a little bit stunned. I think we're all. I think personally, I'm happy for Barry that he's made this decision and chosen to go spend time with his family. But I think the biggest thing for me, Brooks, is how I'm feeling is, I would like to know who's going to be the decision maker. So I think until we know who the decision maker is, I think it's a little feeling of unknown.
As I said at the beginning of the podcast, I think this is good for everybody. I think it's Barry Trotz going out on his own terms as a legend here and someone who is so beloved around the hockey world. And what I think about sitting in that press conference on Monday is just all the games that I watched Barry Trotz coach, whether it was in person here in Nashville with the other 2 teams that he was with, just the sheer amount of games and years and impact on the NHL, that he could put those final few years into his hockey legacy as a GM and be able to say, you know what, I've done enough. It's my time for a handoff. And I think he's served the organization well in that decision too. So I think it underscores everything that Barry Trotz made inherent to Smashville, which is loyalty, respect, and patience. And that has defined the Predators' decision making when it comes to GMs, coaches, and at times players as well for 27 seasons. So I think that is what stands out to me the most. And that's why all of this makes sense in my head.
Can I add one thing on this is last night at the game when the Preds were having their comeback win, which we'll get to that. But when they shot to Barry Trotz, the fans stood up and they cheered him and he threw up the heart sign and the fans were going crazy. We love Barry Trotz. And I think that just speaks volumes to who he is. So Brooks, I'll let you take over from here. But I think just that moment, he wasn't booed. People were happy. People were excited. People love Barry. And I think it's just he gets to go out on a high note.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I was going to mention that if you didn't. And that was such a highlight last night to, and props to our video department who threw together a tribute video very quickly with a lot going on Monday to get that out and to let Barry have his moment. And he will have a moment again, I think, at some point when this all really does come to fruition. But to give him that moment in the game last night, and to get a standing ovation, I thought was wonderful. And, I think for Barry Trotz as well, like, this day was going to come when he took over for David Poile in 2023. I don't think the intention was to ever do this for 10 years. I think it was someone like Barry Trotz who was a perfect person to take over for somebody like David Poile, the way that the organization has gone, and kind of a full circle moment for him as the first head coach, obviously, and coming in to take over from the first general manager, a mentor in a lot of ways, David Poile to Barry Trotz. And, it's been a pleasure to be around him for these couple of years and see how he operates as a GM and really get to know him as a person. And I know that, there will be people that say, oh, he's a great person. Great. It only matters what he does as a GM. Well, sure. That's true to a point. But as a person, I think one of the things that Bill Haslam said yesterday was, and Bill Haslam, again, he has done it all. He said, I've been a businessman, I've been in politics, I've been in sports. He said, I don't know many better humans than Barry Trotz. And that's the truth.
Mhm.
And when you're a good person, you're better at what you do everywhere else because of that. And so I think Barry Trotz, agree with the decisions he's made or not, he is a wonderful human, and because of that, I think he's got a lot more respect than maybe some other folks in a position like that would. So, shout out to Barry Trotz, who has done a masterful job in his hockey career spanning 40 years. We're gonna miss him, but we're not saying goodbye quite yet. He's still got some decisions to make. We're excited to see where that goes. And then, oh, by the way, yeah, the Monday that started out quite normally and got turned upside down, the game was a bit of a slobber knocker too, and we're going to touch more on that as we come back on the Preds official podcast. It was fitting, as Andrew Burnett said. More on Monday night's game, a 4-goal comeback. You're listening to the POP on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Welcome back into the Predators official podcast. Kara Hammer along with Max Herz and Brooks Bratten. And guys, I mentioned it in the first segment. I'm a little tired. I think it was 12:30 at last night when my nerves had finally settled down after that comeback win against the St. Louis Blues. It was the fourth and final meeting between the two teams. And I think, Brooks, we can agree that the first period was not great. 10 minutes into the second period, we felt like this is really not great. Then next thing you know, Bruno's talking to the guys on the bench and everything in the game seemed to change.
I don't know about the two of you. I won't lie. When the Predators scored goal number 3, I thought to myself, and I said to others around me, they're going to win this game. You could just feel it turning, right? They go down 5-1. UC Saros gets pulled. Eustace Onanen goes in, which an unsung hero last night was number 29 in pads for the Preds. Made some huge saves as soon as he got into the game. It could have easily been 7 or 8-1 at that point. He kept them in it. The Preds got a couple of goals. And then Ryan O'Reilly got another in the third period, and then Steven Stamkos took it from there. And we talked about how we were feeling. The guys talked about it as well. On Monday morning, you're waking up thinking it's a normal day. Steven Stamkos is like, yeah, I got a couple texts and was like, oh, this is a thing that's happening. So the morning got a little bit turned upside down, but that was the question, right? Yesterday was, okay, great. This is all happening in the front office. How is the team going to handle it? Are they going to be affected by this? Lots of folks were saying, we believe in Bruno and the guys on the ice, that they're not going to let this affect them. And I don't know that it did necessarily. I think, unfortunately, and Barry Trotz kind of joked about this during his presser. He's like, I don't like our first periods. We have seen the Predators do this before. That was the 17th time this season that they have come back to win a game, which is an absurd number to begin with. But to do it down 5-1 max, I mean, I don't know. On one hand, it's like, how is that possible? And on the other hand, it's like, well, of course it's possible. This is what the 25-26 Preds do.
Tying the largest comeback in franchise history. Just the second time the Preds have won a game ever that they trailed by 4 goals. And look, the numbers from this game are crazy. Roman Josi, 4 assists. Luke Evangelista assisted on all 3 of the Preds goals in the third period. Steven Stamkos tied the game and won the game with his second goal of the night and his 609th career goal, passing Dino Ciccarelli and becoming the 20th leading goal scorer in NHL history. Ryan O'Reilly had 2 goals, including possibly one of my favorite goals of the entire season, where him and Philip Forsberg miscommunicated on a power play pass, and O'Reilly just reached out, poked it with one hand, and perfectly knocked it in 5-hole. Everything started going the Preds' way. It was crazy, and they flipped that game on its head. It is so much fun beating the Blues. I love watching the Blues look as bad as they have in most of the games against the Preds this year. So let's keep those guys in St. Louis down. We'll see them again next year. And what a fun win with the Smashville standing O to boot.
The Smashville standing O, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the crowd. And guys were talking about it unprompted all night long. And Kara, you talked to Steven Stamkos after the game, did you not?
Yeah, Stammer was so into the crowd. He talked about the comeback win. I asked him, I said, hey, you talked about scoring meaningful goals. Well, I was number 608 and 609, and he wavered away from the goals and went straight to the crowd here in Smashville.
Big Juice came in, he made some unbelievable saves, and you get one and you get another one quick, and then there's some life and the crowd gets into it. I think that was one of, if not the best crowds I've seen since I've been here, and it was electric out there. We fed off it, and then you can see the snowball keeps rolling in your direction, and give our guys credit. We never quit, but crazy game.
So one of the things that Stamkos also said in our post-game interview was how much he's enjoying watching Roman Josi play hockey right now. And guys, you just mentioned it, 4 assists last night. The captain, he just seems to be on fire.
He's playing so well. And that was something that Stamkos has said previously, too. He's like, when did this thing start to turn around? It was when Roman Josi came back from his injury earlier this season. And almost kind of very quietly had 4 assists last night. You're noticing it as it's happening, but it took me a moment as I was writing the recap after the game. I was like, oh yeah, I should probably mention that. That's kind of a good number. But yeah, Max, Roman has just, and we've seen it happen before. It's not necessarily surprising, but a player of his caliber, the leader of this hockey team, the ability he has to just drag this group into the fight, and they are really feeding off of him right now.
He's just lugging the puck. The puck has been on his stick so much recently, and he's got all the moves going. He's got the dipsy doodles. He's got the cutbacks. He's got the spins. He's got the big circles. He's just got it all going. And the game-winning goal he scored against the Islanders on the road last weekend, it was 4-on-4, and Philip Forsberg was like, yeah, he had the puck for 35 seconds. You knew something was going to happen. And Steven Stamkos set up the screen for him, and he ripped it, and the Preds won a game after they'd been shooting on a goalie all night, and Ilya Sorokin, who was making save after save after save. So Roman Josi has been involved in so many big plays recently. I was really hoping he would get a 5th assist, either on the Steven Stamkos game-winning goal or an empty netter, which sadly the Preds never got an empty netter, but that would have tied the highest point total in franchise history if he did. So an exceptional game for Josi in a sequence of many, as he pushes past 1,000.
You guys will get a kick out of this. When Remy and I were watching the Islanders game, she's only 3 years old. And I said, oh, it's Roman. It's the captain. And she said, oh, so he's the quarterback. And but I'm like, actually, Roman, he kind of is. He's quarterbacking the team right now. That's exactly. We can say that he's the quarterback because right now Roman is driving the train.
Yes,
Well said,
Remy.
I
Nailed
love that.
it.
That's great. Well, there was including that, there was a lot of great audio from last night as well, but I did want to play this from Andrew Brunette in the post game. I mean, again, what a wild day it was. And the bench boss said perhaps it was fitting that the game went like this after what happened in the morning. It just didn't seem like an uneventful 2-1 game was part of the script.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was probably a roller coaster day for a lot of us, from right away in the morning to talking with Barry and Bill and Sean, and then with the team, and then the way the game went was kind of an exhausting day, but probably fitting at the same time. I don't know. There's been other times here that the building, the roof was blown off, but that was probably as good as I've seen it in recent memory. And kudos for them for hanging in. I'm glad we gave them something to cheer about as the game went on. So it was a fun, I guess, at the end of the day, there's lots up and downs and lots in betweens, and you leave on a good note. And I think of Barry. I'm sure for him, for us to probably, he's seen so many different things, and he's been probably a roller coaster ride through the Predator his time. Maybe it's a little bit fitting. That's kind of the way the day ended for him, and I'm happy that for him we got that win. I was feeling sick on the bench. If we would have, Big Juice made some big saves, it could have been 7-1 there, and I was feeling really sick about that. So I'm glad we dug in and found a way to make Papa Barry proud.
So there you hear Bruno post game. We dug in and we found a way to win it for Papa Barry. Didn't
Yeah.
see that one coming. But Roman's the quarterback and we've got Papa Barry.
Papa Barry, like Papa Bear. That's going to
There
have
you
to
go.
stick for the remainder of Barry Trotz's general managing tenure after he announced his retirement plans yesterday. I think it's perfect.
No, I love it. Yeah, it was well said by Bruno, and just a note as well that he mentioned that he likes where this team is heading into the Olympic break. Of course, as we record this, only 2 games to go before that hiatus, but the Preds talk about winning the week, and you're probably sick of hearing us talk about it, but the guys talk about it too, right? It is top of mind. Steven Stamkos mentioned it again on Monday night, that was something that came from Barry Trotz. And more often than not, over the past couple of months, the Predators have won the week. They're trying to do so again heading into this Olympic break. And if they are able to do so, Andrew Brunette says, we've been through a lot of hard things, but we're finding ways to persevere. And if we can get through this one more week, get a little bit of a break, and then come back for what's going to be a crazy end of February into March, who knows what could happen.
Yeah. The belief is contagious. I think Stamkos said that to me. He goes, when you see guys all fighting on the same page, goes the belief. And Bruno even mentioned it, Brooks, we heard it post game. He said they believe in each other. They believe in themselves, and that's exactly what they need right now going into the break.
It's there. So 2 games to go before the break. Wednesday night, the Preds host Minnesota. Thursday, they head to Washington to face Alex Ovechkin and the Caps. And then 4 guys will head over to Milan. The rest get a well-deserved vacation. And we will touch on Milan in just a moment as we continue on here on the Preds Official Podcast on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Welcome back to the Predators Official Podcast here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. You can watch us on the Nashville Predators YouTube page and listen on your preferred podcast platforms. My name is Max Herz from Preds Radio, along with my 2 best friends in the universe, Kara Hammer from Preds TV. Actually, I lied. My best friend in the universe is her daughter, Remy. Hi, Remy. And
Hi,
Brooks
Remy.
Bratten is not one of my best friends. Sorry, Brooks. You're just not enough of a hammer, but he's still on the podcast. We like him enough to keep him around. It is almost time for the Olympics. 2 games as we record now on this Tuesday. By the time you hear us, it may already be Olympic break time. And the Olympics may already have started. They begin on Thursday, February 5th. That is when the women's hockey tournament begins, one of the first events in Milan, Italy, not Milan, Tennessee. There's been a lot of confusion about that. The Olympics are not in West Tennessee this year. Sad to say. Maybe next time.
Never say
But,
never.
yeah. It would be great. But on Thursday, February 5th, the USA women play their first game of the Olympics at 9:30 a.m. Nashville time against Czechia. Then the men's tournament begins next Wednesday. We got a lot of hockey coming our way, Brooks. We want to make sure our fans know when to watch it, how to watch it. Every single USA game, the men's and the women's, will air on the USA Network and also on the Peacock subscription service as part of NBC. The elimination games and medal games for hockey will be on NBC, but the majority of the USA games and some of the other games involving Preds players will be on the USA Network. So I'm going to turn it over for Brooks to let you know when the 4 Olympic Preds will be playing for their nations and when and how you can watch.
Yeah, exactly. And our fans know that if you've seen the Olympics before on the NBC family of networks on Peacock, you can find ways to watch there. But February 11th, the Finns kick things off. It's the first game of the men's tournament against Slovakia. It's a 9:40 a.m. Central Time start. Again, of course, Italy's a few hours ahead, so there's going to be some early games here. Sweden also plays on February 11th, and Switzerland plays on February 12th. So that's all the Preds are in the first 3 games. So, of course, that's Roman Josi for Switzerland, Philip Forsberg for Sweden, and Jussi Saros and Erik Haula for Finland. So you can see all the Preds in action within the first 3 games of the tournament. The big one, Finland versus Sweden, February 13th. Wake up, 5:10 in the morning.
Oh, no.
You can
5
do
in
it.
the morning?
You can
Who
do
did
it. What a way to
that?
what a way to start your Friday. Finland and Sweden, Forsberg versus Saros and Haula, 5:10 a.m. February 13th. And then Max is going to touch on this, but also worth noting, Canada and the United States will not play each other in the preliminary round. We'll see if we hopefully get a meeting between those two at some point. But the quarterfinals begin February 18th. The bronze medal game is February 21st, and the gold medal game comes Sunday morning, February the 22nd on NBC. Those will be live, of course, and we will update you in the weeks ahead as we get closer to that. But we are all proud Americans on this podcast, and we know that many of you listeners are as well. And when can you watch Team USA in action, Max?
USA has honestly, like, I don't want to jinx anything here. This might be the softest group possible for USA. For the men's hockey tournament. There are 3 groups in the men's tournament, 4 teams in each. USA is with Germany, Latvia, and Denmark. And I know you got Leon Draisaitl in there, but that should be a very manageable group for Team USA. So the first USA men's game is on Thursday, February 12th against Latvia, then Saturday, February 14th against Denmark, and Sunday, February 15th against Germany, the final game of their group stage, 3 games in 4 days. All of those games are at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Nashville time. So good TV times. They want Americans watching, so they get the late slots, and they'll all be televised on USA Network and Peacock in the United States. So you can watch it both on cable and on streaming, depending on your preferred option. And before that, the women's team will play 4 games. Thursday, February 5th to open the tournament at 9:30 a.m. Nashville time against Czechia. Saturday, February 7th against Finland, also at 9:30 in the morning Nashville time. Monday, February 9th against Switzerland at 1:30 p.m. Nashville time. And then the big one in the women's prelims, Tuesday, February 10th, USA versus Canada at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Central Time. All of those games will be on USA Network and Peacock. And the women's tournament ahead of the men's tournament, the women's players are already there. Team USA is getting their team picture in these couple days, and they will be playing before the Preds are even done, playing their last game on Thursday. So looking forward to that. And we'll see, Brooks, who USA draws if, well, everybody makes the elimination round. Then you can get into the medal round. Top teams get a bye into the quarterfinals. Then everybody else will have single elimination. USA is with Germany, Latvia, and Denmark in Group C. Roman Josi is the best player in Group A with Canada, Switzerland, Czechia, and France. So Switzerland versus Czechia could be the big swing game there if neither is able to beat Canada. And then Group B, Finland and Sweden, which is by far the best game of the men's prelims, as you said, Brooks. Finland, Sweden, Slovakia, who is solid, and Italy, who is the host nation. So really looking forward to all these games. It's going to be a lot of hockey. So I hope everybody's ready to watch because I'm excited.
So fired up, Kara. Like, I've already got my hoodie and my hat upstairs. I'm ready to break them out. at the Preds team store, by the way. They may still have some merch if you're interested in picking up some USA hockey swag. They also had some Finland and Sweden jerseys, I believe, that I saw. But I'm so fired up. We've talked about it, the first time in 12 years, NHL players at the Winter Olympic Games. Kara, I don't know. I think basically just leave your television on for the next 2.5 weeks.
I think that's all we do during the Olympics anyway. I mean, it's 24/7 watching the Winter Olympics. We got to give a shout out to our girl, Lindsey Vonn, who's still going to be competing in the women's downhill with a torn ACL. And Max, I heard you say never about Milan, Tennessee, but let's give a shout out to our neighbors down the street. Geodis Park is going to be hosting soccer during the 2028 Summer Olympics. So if we're not fired up for these Winter Olympics, guys, get your game on for this summer.
I have absolutely no understanding of how or why Nashville can be part of the Los Angeles Olympics, but I don't want anyone to explain it to me. I have no desire to know. I'm just happy, and I'm going to take it.
Can we put it out that this is like a Philip Forsberg, George Kittle sort of deal happening? I mean, George is out in California. Phil has ties to Geodis. We'll just make some conspiracy theories on the podcast.
100%. Why not? Let's do it. Yeah, that'll be fun. So much to look forward to. Gosh, sports are the greatest, aren't they? Looking forward to the Olympics. And of course, we will have more information as we go along over the next couple of weeks for you.
I have one more thing to say, Brooks. Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Shout out to the NHL. All of the men's hockey scores, game times, and live updates are in the NHL app. So use the NHL app just like you would to follow the Preds to get all the men's Olympic scores. So props to the NHL for getting that in there.
Couldn't be easier. There's no excuse. You've no excuse to not watch all of these games, and we will certainly be doing so, even if you have to wake up at 5 a.m. It's once every 4 years you can do it. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap things up on this jam-packed episode of the Preds official podcast here on 102.5 The Game and streaming on YouTube. Fourth and final segment of the Predators official podcast for this week. Brooks Bratten alongside Max Herz and Kara Hammer here on ESPN 102.5 The Game and YouTube. Tuesday, February 3rd as we record, and we're still letting it sink in, but the big news of the week, we know that the Big E awesome person of the week should go to only one person. Our friend Aaron Donick would have loved this, but Predators general manager Barry Trotz announcing his plans for retirement. He is our Big E awesome person of the week.
And Brooks, we know Aaron would have loved it. Just listening to Willie talk about Barry Trotz last night, two people who have worked together since day one. And Willie said it was Barry who made Nashville and make it a family. This is why we're a family. And it started at the top with Barry Trotz. And Willie said something that kind of stuck out. And he goes, if you love Nashville, Nashville will love you back. And even when Trotzy went to Washington, he still said Nashville was his home. And that's why he's back here. So, Barry, we love you. Congrats on being the Big E person of the week. And you're still the GM, but we're also going to wish you a great retirement when the time comes.
Yeah. Do we say congratulations now or do we wait? What's the protocol here?
I don't really know how that works. Like, do you get the congratulations balloon, but it's only like halfway inflated? I don't really know how that works.
You got to have really good helium to keep that inflated until the summer.
Or you get like a congratulations cake, but we got to eat half of it first. I don't know. We're only one. Our fishing pole's only in so far. We're not all the way in yet. But no, that's a really good point, Kara. Like, we talk about this is just a different organization. I think, I saw someone, which we know that social media can be a mess, but I saw a comment on the video of Barry Trotz receiving the standing ovation that we talked about during the game on Monday. And somebody was like, who obviously is not from here and doesn't get it, but they were like, why would you give him a standing ovation? But I think that speaks to how much people in Nashville do love Barry Trotz. If you're a true Predators fan, forget the business part of it, the human part of it. You can't help but love the man. And for what he's done for this organization, this franchise, this city. Again, if you're a true fan of the Nashville Predators, you hold Barry Trotz in a very high regard. And Max, we saw that on Monday night. Barry Trotz, our Big E, we love you. And we'll see you soon at the trade deadline. We'll talk about all the happenings and we will keep you posted on all the Predators happenings, the Olympic happenings as well. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Preds official podcast. For Kara Hammer and Max Herz, I am Brooks Bratten, and we will be back during the Olympic break. Enjoy the hockey. Talk to you soon.